Within our souls, we all possess a dream which lay dormant until intrigue strikes its match and sets the torch we carry ablaze, leading us down the path of the unknown towards our dreams. As coaches who are former high-performance athletes, our personal experiences have shown us that a coach, parent, or even a fellow athlete have the potential to either illuminate or extinguish the dreams of young athletes. Nothing is lost from the candle which lights another. We are here to share our stories and our passion to illuminate the champion within, empowering coaches, parents, and athletes to keep the flame of their dreams burning eternally. You are listening to Illuminating Champions with Michal and Ashley Anton.
Welcome to another episode of Illuminating Champions. For our first-time listeners, my name is Ashley, and I'm here today with my husband, Michal.
Hey, how are you guys?
We also have a very special guest with us. He is our personal coach and our brand artist. His name is Mark Patterson. Hi, Mark.
Good morning.
Hi, Mark.
So today's episode is entitled Defined by Gold, and it's all about actually redefining the athlete by character rather than by gold. As many people are aware, the sports community around the world has been defined by gold for quite some time, and it's caused a tumultuous environment for many athletes involved in sports. And we're here to redefine the athlete as a whole, as a human, as they still aim for gold. And we're going to point out in this episode that it is very important to aim for gold, but also always remember who you are as a person and remember to be defined by your character. So this episode will help athletes redefine themselves. It will help parents keep in mind what's important, and it will help coaches help their athletes redefine themselves by their character and do all they can to ensure that they are promoting an environment which defines the athlete as a whole rather than an egocentric environment that defines the athlete by gold. So Mark is going to be asking us some questions to help parents, coaches, and athletes better understand this concept. So why don't you start us off, Mark?
Okay, great. Well, I certainly like the title of this, Defined by Gold. Since my thing is I'm a brand consultant, I help people figure life out. And we live in here in America, a very competitive society. And where winning is important, and to some people, it's the only thing. So they define their whole being as that. So how do you help your athletes and the parents? What specifically things do you do to help get that balance between creating champions, but champions in life rather than just people striving to win all the medals they get?
Well, it is a delicate balance. As you know, we coach gymnastics, and that is probably the most popular and widely known Olympic sport in the whole world. So that balance is challenging. Everybody has this big dream of going to the Olympics and winning a gold medal. Normally, that's what they're inspired the most by. But you have to remember that that is not your only defining characteristic. And it is reserved for the select few in the world who are ever going to attain that. So for the millions of other people that partake in the sport, they also need to know that they are extremely valuable and they're not defined by that Olympic gold medal alone. That is an extraordinary achievement that needs to be admired and it needs to be honored. But that's just one characteristic that makes somebody special over the hundreds more that you could possibly have. So we always make it a point to really define what is important in an athlete, what makes the champion. Some of the first questions that we ever ask our athletes when they start competing, because that's when they encounter this concept personally for the first time. They really start thinking about it. And it starts weighing heavily on their mind that being a champion means I have to win and I have to come in first place. So we normally talk to them before and after competition. And one of the largest questions is, well, what makes a champion? And
what makes a champion? It's winning the gold medal or
Right.
having the, how to say it in English?
the qualities and characteristics.
The characteristic, more like the behavioral characteristic of a champion. You know,
Mhm.
like I remember in the past we talked about being a champion in life without winning a gold medal in Olympics. You know, when you prepare yourself for such a big, what would be the word for it?
A big feat.
Yes, like
Big
being an
journey.
Olympic champion. And you don't achieve that, right? Going through that process, I always say that's what makes you a champion. It's not winning the medal. It's being capable to go through that process of hard work, determination, not giving up, waking up every day, go to school, do your homework, back to the gym in gymnastics, go back to the gym, do your training, go back home, do your homework again, wake up tomorrow and start over, like you are sore tomorrow, but you still go to practice. All those things build a strong character, a character of a champion.
Mm-hmm.
That by the time you get older and you go in life as an adult, you have that champion attitude that carry with you, that doesn't let you give up easy in life. You go to college, you're going to study very good. You're not just going to give up because it's hard. You go get a job, you're going to work a job or two jobs to make a living and achieve in life what you want to achieve, because you're not going to give up, because you have that behavior from when you did sport.
Right. And since we work with children that are very young, explaining this can get complicated. So rather than just emphasize the will to win, which is something that we'll talk about in a couple minutes from now, we emphasize what makes someone admirable. We ask them.
Just a second. You see, like I tell the girls in the gym all the time, I tell them, like, being a champion is not just winning the gold medal. Being a champion actually is falling 1,000 times on the same trick, on the same routine, and stand up 1,001 times. And then 1,001 time, you make it. That's the champion attitude. That's what makes a champion. It's not because sometimes you can go to a competition. Let's say you are naturally talented and your parents put you in a sport and you go to your first competition of your life at the beginning levels and you win. It can happen. You won and you're more talented athletically than other kids. You understand the sport a little better. You have extra advantage right from the beginning and you won. That doesn't mean you are a champion if you don't have the behavior of it. Understand?
Right.
Because the kid that you just beat, that didn't win, that struggle, came in last place, is going to go back in the gym and work very hard and dedicate themselves every single day and have that discipline. And then by the time, like in gymnastics, in girls gymnastics, at 16 years old, they can compete in the Olympics. By the time you are 15, you are at a position to make the national team and be like, okay, she's the next one, right? That girl that came last place at your first competition is going to be the one that's going to the Olympics and win a gold medal.
Yeah. Because your placement is temporary, like we talked about before.
Because when you start, you had all that natural gift that you didn't use it correctly because for you came easy and you didn't have that discipline that the girl that struggled had. And you go back in the gym and you didn't work very hard and you didn't show up to practice, I don't know, tomorrow because you was sore or you was tired, and the other girl did. And every day that adds on and she builds and she builds and she builds and she becomes the best in the world. It's the same thing with everything else in life.
Right.
So that's one of the things that we point out to our athletes. We give them these contrasts where we could say to them, what if the person standing on first place was a unkind athlete and they were mean to everybody else that came in a placement below them? Or what if they didn't have to work very hard to get there and they didn't come to practice? Or what if they gave up the first time something came difficult to them? Would you still admire them? And the answer is always no. So then we start by asking them, well, what do you admire about an athlete? What do you admire within your own teammates, no matter if they have more skills than you or less skills than you? And all the time they choose, well, this person is always someone that makes me feel good about myself. They always have a good attitude. They're always ready for practice. They show up on time and they're ready to work hard. They're always paying attention. They always are somebody that I could look at and they are my role model. And then we say, well, that's a true champion.
Yeah.
A role model is a champion, not just the person that's standing on first place, because that first place moment is an extraordinary moment, but it's a temporary moment.
Because you see it in gymnastics. Remember, we talk about gymnasts being very cocky athletes, very cocky competitors, and very big ego. And you see it sometimes. You go to a competition and you see a girl like scoring very high in the first 3 events, and she's winning actually 3 events out of 4 possible. And then she goes to the last event and has a mistake and she doesn't win. And then she starts crying and having a hissy fit, and you know what I mean?
Having poor sportsmanship to her other competitors.
You see, that's someone who is so talented from natural gift, right? But doesn't know how to work hard. And then like she doesn't appreciate
her competitors or herself.
Or even herself. She doesn't appreciate herself just if she win gold medal.
Right, because she's defining herself.
She doesn't look at herself like, wait a second, how hard did I work to get where am I today? When the child that struggle a little bit most of the time has the tendency that because they work very hard, because things doesn't come easy for them, because they have to have that discipline and push themselves every single day, they respect it more. That's why it's very important. You teach someone to want to be the best, but teach them to be humble on the other side at the same time. And teach them to be humble with others and teach them to be humble with themselves. Because you have to have a humble feeling about you too.
Yeah.
You cannot judge yourself just by how big is your ego. Your ego has to have a humble side too, because otherwise you destroy yourself. You eat yourself alive, kind of like to say.
I think that's a good point to remind the viewers of something you mentioned in a previous episode of your story. You weren't the most talented, gifted person, in your city to jump into this. You were a sickly child.
Yes.
That doctor said you needed exercise, and when you went, you weren't looked upon as this, this growing champion. They made fun of you. You were the skeleton boy because you were so skinny. Yes. And I think your story of how you struggled through that and how you worked out and built yourself up and learned the tricks, you pushed yourself probably harder than all the other kids in that. And you developed that champion heart, and you knew what it felt like to be bullied and made fun of. So I think that's what makes you a great coach. I just wanted to remind people. I love that.
Thank you for saying
the story of
like, one day I will be a great coach. I will make an Olympic champion one day. Then I will be a great coach. But I try to do my job.
Now you're defining yourself by gold.
Now I'm being humble, actually. Now I'm being humble.
Means a goal. That's a goal.
Now I have a goal. I know I'm being humble. But you see, for me, like, that's where all this idea comes, with not defining yourself by that first place, by that gold medal. Because for me, I was defined just like that. And not just me, everybody else in my country at the time, that's how they define you. They make you, they want you to be the best. They teach you to want to be the best. They teach you to be competitive, right? Like a warrior. You go to war for your country to compete. Because you see, what are Olympic athletes? Yeah, Olympic athletes, I always say that. Olympic athletes are soldiers for their country. In a war without weapons, it's a war of excellency, friendship, sportsmanship, right? We go there to compete in the Olympics because we want to bring pride to our country, whatever country we represent. We want to see that flag and the anthem on the first position, right? Then, obviously, we have a big ego, right? Obviously, we want to succeed, right? But you cannot define yourself just by winning that gold medal. And that's how I grew up. For me, like, if I go to a competition and I won gold medal, everybody will be like, wow, bravo, the champion. But if I come in the second place and my teammate won, I will not even know that I actually got second place, because nobody will celebrate it in no way. They'll make fun of me, like, oh, this guy just beat you. Like, he won. He's the champion. Like, I would feel bad that I didn't win in the first place. And that's very detrimental for the athlete.
Yes.
to not know how to respect themselves if they don't win that gold medal.
That's an amazing, component of your coaching, because how in the world do you not only teach these young people to be athletes, but teach them this self-respect and yet keep that striving to be a champion? So you have to create a culture in your gym that has a balance of all these things. So what kind of specific things do you do to help create that mindset and team spirit without killing the desire to be a champion?
It's a lot of discussions. To be honest, it takes up a large part of practice, and you have to use every moment that you can. And the unique thing about gymnastics is that you are competing directly against your best friend and teammate.
Yes.
So you have to learn how to have good sportsmanship before you get to competition, and to not just let yourself be defined by the medal placement that you achieve, like Michal just said. I think that
because look, 1 second, you know why I'm saying that? And I want people to understand it. Because you train very hard. You go, let's say, not the Olympic Games. You go to the national championships and you want to make the Olympic team, right? You go to the Olympic tryouts, it's called here in US. And you train very hard. And you are like, I'm going to go to the Olympics and I'm going to become an Olympic champion after. And you go to the Olympic tryouts and you have, let's put it this way, you have a bad day. You walk in that arena and you didn't sleep well at the nighttime, and then you fell off the beam. And someone else does their job and they go to the Olympics. Are you less valuable than if you land that beam routine and go to the Olympics? What changed for you in life? Like, no, you're the same person. You're the same value as a human being.
Right.
Just you did a mistake.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you cannot just judge yourself based on the fact that you didn't win. Because also sometimes you see, like, you go to a competition and you don't win. But you don't win not because you're not good or you didn't do something correct. It's because someone else maybe did better than you. Now, what you're going to do? You're going to give up on everything just because someone else had a better performing? That's why it's important for you to understand, even when you didn't win, what you did good and what you did wrong. Because in both, it's hard to say, like, when you win, the coach is not going to come to you and be like, oh, we did this wrong on beam. Understand? Most of the time when you come in 5th place, 6th place, 7th place, the coach is going to be like, oh man, if you landed the dismount on beam or on bars, you stick the landing, you will win. Right? Then you have to learn what you did wrong and you have to see what you did good, because sometimes you don't win by trying to do something very good. And you did actually something good, but was not good enough in that moment. Makes sense. Right?
Yes, it makes sense. And I was we're like on the same thought train. So I'm going to help you with a phrase.
Yes.
Your will to win.
Your English is better than me.
Your will to win is a more powerful defining characteristic than that you actually won.
Yeah.
And that for you growing up as a child, you learned firsthand, because you did come from so behind at such a disadvantage, starting gymnastics for medical reasons, not just because you thought it looked exciting and you wanted to do it. You were so disadvantaged physically and emotionally even than the other children who are just starting off. And you really had to learn inside a society that was defining you by gold, that, you know what, my willpower to win gold is what's carrying me along and allowing me to become a greater version of myself. And that is what defines really a champion. It's their will to be great, not just if they came in first, second, third, or 24th place. It's that willpower. And that's what's going to carry them through the rest of their life, like you said in the beginning of this episode and before. So we do explain that a lot to our girls. And honestly, the younger that you start having these conversations with them, the easier it is for them to grasp. And you need to do things with them that stimulate a friendly competitive environment. You know, we've kind of gotten away in America of like even playing games or having contests where there's a winner, because we don't want anybody to get upset that they didn't win. And I think that is such a gigantic mistake for
That is a
children,
mistake.
because first of all, they don't learn to want to win. And that's such an exciting thing and such a defining principle of life to allow you to thrive in your life. But also then they don't know how to have good sportsmanship. They don't know how to look at somebody else that surpassed them with admiration and then still politely want to surpass them the next time. So with very, very little kids, you know, you can do things like even just racing, you know, across the floor and let one of them win, because that's something they can see. And then you can explain to them, you know, okay, this time this person won, but aren't you so proud of her? She did a great job. She ran fast, and you could still want to beat her the next time, but you have to tell her that she did a good job because she did do a good job, didn't she? And then they start developing this thought process, and they have good sportsmanship, and they do appreciate who does well, and they also want to do well, and it just becomes a natural thing to them. And you know, it's confusing because then initially a lot of them come in and they think it's wrong for them to want to be better than somebody else. Like they think it's mean for them to want to be better than somebody else. And you do need to explain to them, like, no, that's not mean. That's really good that you want to be the best one here. There's nothing mean about that, to do the best job, as long as you're still polite to everybody else and you're still encouraging to your teammates.
Once again, you say, because if you teach them in sport, you teach the sportsmanship, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you teach them to respect someone who just won in front of them, who beat them.
Mm-hmm.
When they go in life, they are very respectful adults. They're not going to be those type of jealous adults looking to slander people and stab people in the back and, you know, like ruin people's lives just because someone does better than them. That's one big problem in society today,
Right.
that we have, right? Everybody is like looking at everybody like, you know, like, what can I say bad about this person? Why can I do bad to that person? Because look at, they do better than me. Why? Because they don't know how to not be the best.
Mm-hmm.
You know, deep down, let's put it this way. Everybody wants to be the best. They are just afraid to say it because they are afraid that they are not going to be the best. And that's where the problem is. Even in competition, if you go to a sport competition and you ask any young child, do you want to win? They all want to win.
Mm-hmm.
You know who's going to say, I don't want to win or I don't care? The one that doesn't trust themselves, that they can do it. And they are afraid of losing. That's where the problem is.
This is what inspires me about what you're saying is, where are those conversations going to happen outside of a gym? Your teacher's probably not going to say that. Your parents might not be aware of it at that level. So it's really interesting that a parent might take their child to gymnastics just to learn how to do this, or, you know, in the hopes that they could be athletic. But the bigger benefit is conversations about life and caring and striving and helping are happening every day in your gym. That's what I'm getting at. You have a culture in your gym.
Yes, I do.
of illuminating champions. You're pointing out things that make a champion every day, and that adds up to building a better person.
Look, right. The youngest girl that I have in the gym competing, or the most unexperienced one, let's put it that way, she wants to win.
Mm-hmm.
I teach her to want to win. Yeah. And I show her the tools to win. And I tell her, like, look, we do this. You are going to do better. You are going to get to that goal one day, you know. And they all desire to be very good. And even they are not winning as a gymnast, as an athlete, because I don't know, they are not athletic enough. Let's put it just that way, right? The natural ability is athleticism, right? They don't have that gift from God. But they go to school and they study better. Mm-hmm. They are a better student in school. They are more determined in school to do well. They have more determination in life.
They learn to strive.
Yes, because now they're like, you know what? I want to win. I want to get that. I want to be as good as that person.
When something that we started doing in our gym to point out actually what makes a champion in life is we do a role model of the week award. And it goes to who is behaving like a role model, who's being admirable. It does not matter their level of experience or their level of skill at all. And that is really helping define a culture have like redefined the culture of gymnastics, where these qualities of striving, being kind, uplifting your teammates while you uplift yourself, rather than wishing somebody the worst, wishing somebody would fall or get hurt just so you could surpass them, watching somebody work their hardest or overcome a fear, or, just be excited to get better every single day. That those are the important qualities that you can admire within someone else and what you should strive for yourself. So we do this on a weekly basis with our competitive team, and they really start to support each other.
For coaches, they have to teach the athlete to lose, and the parents.
Yeah.
The coach and the parents, they have to teach that young child to lose. Desire to win, desire to be the best, but learn how to lose, and lose with pride. Don't lose with
shame.
Shame. Don't be ashamed. Like, you work.
Right.
You put the time into the training. You did jump up on that beam and do that flip. You know what I mean? Like, you should be proud of you. Yeah, you didn't win today, but that's not something to be ashamed about it. Like, and it's sad because you see coaches shaming their athletes, and sometimes it's not, you don't have to say it. And that's where the thing is. I coach coaches most of the time. Now they're going to get mad at me, a lot of coaches, but I don't really care, to be honest. Like, I'm very straightforward,
so that we can make it better.
Sometimes it's just your behavior. It's not even words.
It's your body language.
It's your body language. Your athlete falls off the bars or fall off the beam or the pommel horse, and you just like, and turn around and walk. And like, oh my God. Like, they see it because I was that athlete, and I was there, and I did my pommel horse routine, and right before my hand slipped off the horse, and I fell, boom. And then the second, I put my eyes up, and I see my coach like, oh my God, this guy, and then walk away from me, like I was like not even there in the arena. Like, I was already embarrassed because it's like thousands of people watching me, right? I was already feeling bad because I knew at that moment I'm not going to win. And then the person that I have to trust the most doesn't care about me because I'm not good enough to win. That's the worst feeling to have as a competitor in any sport.
Right.
I need, that's why, remember I told you in past episodes, I tell my athletes all the time, I want to be your coach in your worst moment. Because in the good moments when you win a gold medal, it's easy. Everybody wants to take a selfie with a champion. Everybody wants an autograph. Everybody wants an interview. But nobody wants to talk to the last place. Understand that? I want to be your coach. And that's how coaches have to think. That's the mentality of a coach. I want to be your coach in your worst moment. The most embarrassing moment you have, the most harder moment you have, the most difficult moment. That's when I want you to trust me as your coach.
Well, that's a good segue into this next point, So there comes a point in an athlete's journey where they're saying, I don't know if I like this sport. I don't think I like this sport. I'm not good at it. I'm not good enough. So versus having a bad day or a series of bad days. So how do you actually work with a young athlete to help them determine the difference between quitting the sport or just understanding that they're just going through, a tough time at this moment in their development? How do you coach those moments?
I'm going to start this one, and I think I'm going to make sense in English. Because I think, when I think complex things, it's funny. I think in my language, I think in Romanian, then I translate in English to make sense very well. And then by the time I say the phrase, I forgot half of it. It's so complicated. But anyway, it's very important to teach that young athlete that they have the opportunity to quit at any moment if they don't feel like doing it. That's the most relief thing to have, is that, yes, if I don't feel comfortable, I don't have to do it. Understand? And you have to teach them, like my girls in the gym, I always teach them, doesn't matter what level they compete, doesn't matter how good they are, doesn't matter whatever the situation is. I always teach them gymnastics, and I tell them in front of their parents too, and I tell the parents too sometimes. Gymnastics, it's yours and yours only. You're not doing gymnastics to please me. You're done doing gymnastics to please mommy, daddy, your sister, the dog, the cat, whatever is in the house. You're doing gymnastics for you. And if you care to please others, whatever who they are, by you doing gymnastics for yourself correctly, they are going to be happy for you because they already love you and bring you to the gym every day.
Right. They want to see you happy.
Yes. Then they have to know that they have that possibility
Sure.
to stop in the moment they don't feel comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I always tell them, like if someone tells me like, look, I don't feel to do it anymore, and they want to have a conversation, depends on the reasons, right? Like, I don't know, sometimes like you move up in level, the demanding is higher, obviously. And we have to be honest to those things. Like you want to be an elite gymnast, you want to compete at the national level, you want to make the national team or get a full scholarship in a Division I college. It's a different ball game of training. It's a different ball game of competition.
Mm-hmm.
The demands are high. And sometimes you have someone who's very good, is talented, works hard, is disciplined, but they get to that level and that level is a little bit too much for them emotionally, right? And as a coach, you have to try to figure that out. But when I have the discussion with an athlete and I sit down with them, very friendly, very like I tell them like, whatever you feel to say, you have to say it. You cannot tell me something thinking about, is he going to like it? Is going to be wrong? Is going to be right? No, you tell me what you feel and I tell you if it's wrong or it's not wrong. And then when I talk to them, I always go back and I say, okay, the only thing I can tell you, if you want me to tell you, is why you should continue the sport. Like if I have that feeling, sometimes I don't have the feeling and I tell them okay, you should do a different sport. But if I feel we can fix that, it's just an emotional moment that we can go through together, then I'm going to ask if they want me to tell them the
Your
reason
opinion.
why they should, my opinion, but they don't have to be obligated to do it. And then I explain them why. No, I look at it, I say like, look, you work very hard. You got so far. You achieved this and this and this and this. And I give them the positivity out of that. No? And then after that, I ask them like, okay, what makes you feel uncomfortable to do it? Taking in consideration all those positive things, And then based on that, you can go with a discussion further and, help them understand why it will be better for them to still practice the sport. But sometimes it's the opposite direction. Like you have to tell them like, okay.
But I think the key point is you have the discussion.
Right.
I look back on a couple of moments in my life where I didn't have anyone that I had that discussion with. So I just made the easy decision. I was playing music and I loved baseball. I was really good at music, but I liked baseball. So I didn't talk to anybody. My music teacher didn't sit me down, but I quit.
Yep.
And I played baseball. And I never grew big enough to be a good baseball player. I was a tiny little kid in high school. But my music teacher years ago said, you should
stayed with music.
But nobody sat down with me and helped my little brain think that out. So I appreciate the fact that you like your students enough, you care about them enough that you help them actually coach them through those decisions.
Yeah, you have to.
So
that's what
good.
I was going to add to what Michal was saying is one of the most important thing to do is first find the root of where that emotion is coming from. And you can only do that through discussion. And sometimes it's really hard because kids don't always want to open up to you. So they need to first feel comfortable that they have room to do the sport or not do the sport. And that's going to allow them that comfort level of, okay, well, then I could have a discussion if something was wrong, which is very important. You don't want anybody to ever hold anything in that's making them uncomfortable. That's another episode that we'll have that has led to a lot of problems within the sport of gymnastics. It is kids being afraid to say things because they don't have that comfort level, but we'll save that for another day. And then, you do need to let them say how they're feeling. One thing that we always ask if somebody if as a coach that they're just going through an emotional time because maybe it's the first time they've really struggled with something and maybe this sport came fairly easy to them up until a certain point and then they got to a new level and it's now really hard and they're just realizing that.
Because you see, competing in sports, all the sports, but gymnastics specifically, right, has few different levels.
Mm-hmm.
It is not amateur, but it's like, how to say it, recreational,
Yep.
right? You can do recreational classes just to do sport recreationally. Then you can compete a
Kind
little
of for
bit,
fun, yeah.
like for fun. Then you can move up and compete professionally, like trying to go to a
Elite
good college,
gymnastics,
to
college.
elite gymnastics, make the national team, go to the Olympics, World Championships, and become big name in the sport. That's a different ballgame.
Right.
Understand? Then you, as a coach, you have to explain those differences very well to the parent and to the child before you
From the
put them in the
beginning,
program.
yeah.
And you see, we go back to ego for parents and the coaches has to stay out of taking decisions like that, because you cannot take decision based just on your ego. You look at another, it's like, okay, she could be an Olympic champion. I'm going to put her to work no matter what. And she has to do the training and she has to do gymnastics. No, she doesn't have to if she doesn't want to. And she has to know that. Understand? And that's going to make her actually comfortable to maybe do gymnastics and push through the hard moments. But you have to be honest as a coach and explain those differences.
Right. And then when somebody is having that emotional moment, you need to have a thorough conversation with them. You need them to find what's making them feel like that. You need to show them that it's surpassable. If you deep down know that it is, and they're willing to have that conversation. And then something that we always ask, like, if you were having your very, very best day at gymnastics and everything was going the way that you wanted it to, would you still want to quit? And if the answer normally is like, no, of course not.
Then let's get to that good day.
Let's keep going, because you're going to get back to that place as long as you don't.
Let's and get to that good day. And so, also, you have to make you have to make the kids comfortable with everything. You know, like I tell my girl in the gym, one other things I tell them all the time is, I'm not gonna like you based on your gold medals.
Right.
That doesn't make me like you more. Understand? The level of me liking you or coaching you, or you think like, oh, if I win a gold medal, he's gonna put me in level 10. No, doesn't work like that. It's your work ethic that makes me push your level of gymnastics.
Right.
Understand? And me liking you is based on your behavior. Like if you are a respectful character, yes, if you are a respectful person, I'm going to like you. I don't care you are Olympic champion or you are last place.
Right.
That doesn't change for me because I don't coach with ego. I have no ego.
Right.
You are a person like everybody else. The girl that come in the first place is as human as the girls that come in the last place for me. Then that doesn't change who's my favorite.
Well,
because
that's
I don't
really
have, I tell the guys in the gym all the time, they ask me like, who's your favorite? I say, I don't really have a favorite. My favorite is the one that works the hardest.
But they ask on purpose. They ask jokingly because they know that we don't have favorites. And some kids don't, coaches, sometimes they're not aware that they make kids feel like they do have favorites, but you shouldn't have a favorite. You can't favor someone just because they perform better or they're more affluent in the sport. They have to know they're all equally as important to you.
That's another problem too, because people take it as favorite. Like if you have someone who's very, let's say, is gifted. Yeah. Right? Let's put it that way.
They learn
and
faster.
They move up to level faster and they train at higher levels, right? They prepare, for example, we talked in the past about HOPES, which is a pre-elite qualification program, right? Kids go from there, they can go to the national junior team and then they make it in the national team. You have someone that's very good and you train them for that. The parents and the other kids can look at it as like, oh, she's his favorite. No, she's just different. Like she has different gifts. I'm not going to keep her back to be on the level with everybody else just because I have to say like, it's not fair for her to keep her down and it's not fair for someone else to put them there when they are not ready.
Right.
Then I'm going to give her the opportunity that she shows me she wants and she's capable to go for. And
well, both
makes sense.
Yes, it does. And both scenarios are a huge problem within our sport. We see it all the time. And both are equally as detrimental to the child. We have discussions nowadays with a lot of the scandals that have gone on with this win at all cost mentality that it needs to stop, because you cannot just push someone past their breaking point because you want them to be at a certain place and you need to win as a coach, or your child needs to be an Olympic champion, and then you literally force them through. But also it is what Michal said. If you have somebody that really has potential and you don't maximize their potential because you're too worried about, well, what are people going to say? People are going to think I favor them, or people are going to be mad that their child is not moving as fast. Well, that's really not fair to that child either. And then they're going to grow up one day and they're going to realize very painfully when they're watching people on TV, like, you know what, that could have been me if somebody just, helped me get there, but I didn't use my potential. And both scenarios are equally as painful, we can say, from personal experience.
It is very painful when you did a sport like that, and gymnastics is a demanding sport, and you get to the point when you realize, like, wow, if I had the right coach,
right?
You know what I mean? And for me,
Right.
that was, I think, the most painful to deal with
Me too.
when I stopped gymnastics and I started coaching, was the pain of not competing at the international level at all and not making the Olympic team, and I was in the position to do so. Like, I'm going to give a short story. Like, back in, I think it was 1991, I won national championships in the first place in my division. And I was like here will be level 9, I think, compared. The national champion in level 9 and the national champion in level 10, they will automatically make the team for the Balkanic Games. Balkanic Games at the time were the kind of the ramp, right?
Yeah, the launching ramp.
The
we can
launching
say,
ramp for
launching
your
pad.
international career, right? And as a junior, that's where you want to go to win. And I remember at the time, for example, in that team was Mario Surzica. Mario Surzica was a year older than me, I think, a year or a year and a half years older than me.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody in the team was older. And I compete national championships. I won. I go to the national championships. Actually, I had fractures on my lower back, L3, L4, L5. I have fractures on the vertebrae, and I have a sciatic, very bad sciatic. And my coach was the whole summer. The club coach was like, you have to go to compete. You have to win. You have to go to the Balkanic game. You're going to represent your country. That's where you're going to compete after that European championships. That's your path to the Olympics. And I trained all broken the whole summer, injured, to go to win. And I go and I win. Then I come back home. And at the time, the gym I was training in was the military club in the capital. We had the biggest gym in the country. The dictator built it for us somehow. And the national team came to do the last week of training before the Balkanic game in my gym. And they had a mini meet to see who they're going to put in the team or not. But me, because I won, I had the position in the team. And I go to that mini meet and I walk in the gym, and the president of the Romanian Gymnastics Federation came to me. He's like, oh, you're going to record, and give me like a big VH camera, like you put on your shoulder. Yes. It's like, you're going to record today. And I'm like, record? Like, why? It's like, don't worry. You're not going to you're too young. You're not going to go to the Balkanic Games. And I look at him. I'm like, excuse me? Then I go I'm looking at my coach, my personal coach. And I'm like, can you help me? You know what I mean? And they take me in the room outside the gym. We had like a lot of officers. They take me in the room, and it's the vice president, it's the federal coach, it's the president, it's my coach, right? And they try, the other three start explaining me how, like, you are the youngest, you're going to have another chance next year. Don't worry about it. And I'm looking at my coach and I'm like, can you tell them no? Because I want to go to the Balkanic Games. And even all I want to do is to have that warm-up suit with Romania on the back. You know what I mean? And I want to see the flag going up, and I want to hear the anthem. And my coach was like siding with them. And then they send me in the gym, and I sit out there on the bench, and I was like, I got from motivated to I hate that coach, and I hate all of them, And then after that, they start looking at me because I start being like, of course, I was like 15, I think, 14, 15. After that, like, obviously, like, my testosterone kick in, right? I start being a little bit rebellious and to the program. And they was like, he's just a rebel. I was not. It was my way of
retaliation. Probably.
Yes, against them, because I didn't like it. And that's one story. Next year happened the same thing with European Junior Championships. And then you start hating it. And then you take someone who is so motivated and so desiring to do everything. If they will tell me to be in the gym 24 hours, I'll be in the gym 24 hours just to go to the Olympics. And you make them hate it just because you don't protect them.
Well, and you didn't.
So you've experienced bad coaching, which is why you're driven to be the best coach you can be.
Right.
Of course, I witnessed bad coaching.
But that's,
I come from a country where, let's say, we invent gymnastics, but the society was different. You know, well, maybe one day we're going to get in discussions about that. Because I don't want to look. I don't want to blame people. I'm not this kind of guy that's going to come around and be like, "Oh, they just did it wrong." Look. Also, I understand. I'm mature enough to understand, looking back in time, that the society was also like that. I understand.
Right.
Like everybody.
Well, like you said, there was a lot of politics in gymnastics, the East versus the West, and all that.
Not just gymnastics, all the sport. That's why I said athletes, Olympic athletes, are like soldiers. We were soldiers for our country. Like when we go to the Olympics, especially during the communist socialist Reagan in my country, we had to win. That you know what I mean? Like, was exactly like going into a battle. Like when you go there and you perform against the American athlete, you think my coach will let me sit down on the bench because my finger hurt that day? No. They will be like, go beat that American guy.
Well, we talked about there are a lot of things that lead up to this defined by gold attitude. I guess a coach could be defined by gold if that's what they're striving for, as well as the athlete being defined by gold. So what do you think are the major contributing factors to that defined by gold concept?
You see, once again, you said something about the coach being defined by gold. And that was the moral of that story, actually. One of the moral of that story was my coach was defined by gold. All he wants for me, he didn't care about my career. Understand? Because at that moment I was national champion. He got rewarded. He got rewarded by the military club. He got rewarded by the Romanian Gymnastics Federation. He got what he wants.
for himself.
For himself. For me, it didn't matter. Because now, for him to give me the opportunity that I want, he had to go against the Romanian Gymnastics Federation. And he didn't do that. Because that will hurt him. I understand? He got to everything he wants. He became famous. They move him, they give him more, what you call in the military when you have the stripes on your shoulders. He was like an officer. They make him a colonel, like something like that. You know what I mean? Like
promoted.
They promote his ranking in the military. Like he got money from the club. Like he was fine. You know, I was the one that didn't get anything out of it.
Right. And I think that's the largest contributing factor to this culture that's defined by gold. It is the ego of the coach, you know, and that manipulation by greed of the coach just wanting to succeed, the coach getting rewarded. It's also, you know, the parents can be manipulated by coaches, even if they're being greedy and just looking at it for money.
The parents can be just,
you know,
greedy too.
Right.
They look at their child and it's like they live through it. You know?
Right. You can't.
And I say that, look, I say this with respect to parents, because someone should teach them too. Understand? Like the coaches should let them know when they cross the line.
Right.
The coaches should try to help, because we talk about that trinity, the athlete, the coach, and the parent, right? And I told you, the coach and the parent is the most part of the trinity, because those two have to work together very honestly and very good, without any type of ego relation between the two of them, to help the child, because the one that always going to be hurt is the child. If that relation between the coach and the athlete doesn't work, the coach and the parent doesn't work. The only one who lose there is the athlete, you know. And the parents too, they cannot have the ego of, they look at their daughter, it's like, oh, she can go to the Olympics, that's it, just bring her back in the gym and do whatever you want with her. No. If you see her suffering, you should actually tell the coach first.
Right.
Respectfully, right? You tell the coach, like, can we have a discussion? She's not okay. She doesn't like this, or she's scared of this. She comes home, she's crying. She doesn't want to come back to the gym. No. Because sometimes the child will say more to the parents. Not sometimes, most of the time, then they should.
Yeah.
Your parent is the most trusted person in your life. Right? They give you, especially the mother. No, she gives you life. Like, I trust my mother with my life. I will tell my mother whatever. She gave me life. She stayed with me when I was dying. Like, right? That's normal for a child to go to the parent and be more open than to me as a coach. And as a coach, I understand that. And I'm looking for the
Right.
parent to come to me and tell me, like, look, my child told me this. How can we fix it? And then you work together to help the athlete.
So this message that you're saying is each member of that triumvirate, the coach, the parent, and the child, have to guard themselves against being defined by gold. And when they sense it, they need to discuss it with the other members of that triangle.
Yes.
Yes, and it's more important for the parent and the coach because the child, let's put it this way, in gymnastics especially, they are very young. They don't understand.
Right.
By the time they realize they define themselves by goal, they already hurt themselves.
Right.
I think they are 17, 18 years old on drugs, alcohol, and other problems. And that happened not just with gymnastics. Look, I'm going to be honest now. I think America is one of the most modern country in the world with the highest level of suicide and the teenager side, right? 15 to or 14 to, and shouldn't be. Because this country has everything. Like, what will be a child problem so difficult for them to take their life? That's the most valuable thing you have. For a child to get to that point where they decide to jump off a garage station, like happened here close to us, at the mall, they jump off the
Parking garage.
You know, they have to be very, 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 very hurt emotionally. And they shouldn't get in that point in America like that. Like, I grew up in a communist country. I grew up in a socialist communist country with a dictator. I grew up with no freedom. I grew up with no food, no water, no electricity, no TV. Understand? I never thought about killing myself. You know, I grew up poor, even in America. I came in America like, yes, I have moments when I come in America as an adult and the life brought me down to my knees and I start questioning myself, like, and questioning life, to be honest, because I was in a situation where it was like so difficult. But even then, I find out that life is more valuable, wherever how life is. And it's because I have the tools that I have from sport, you know. Then you have to teach kids to not judge themselves by the goal because they're not going to know, they're not going to make the difference. And by the time they get a little bit older where they can process that difference, they are going to hurt themselves.
That's why they call it a guardian, because you are there as a parent and even as a coach, you're like a temporary guardian to look out for that child. And you need to notice how they're thinking before they're able to even fully process that their thoughts can be detrimental to themselves. And that's why it's so important to pay attention, to not be driven by your own ego as a coach or a parent, because then you won't be able to see the ego of the athlete because you'll be too blindsided by your own. And then you can't help them. And that's when things do go very, very wrong.
But they do that everywhere. They judge themselves by the gold medal in every aspect of life. That's why I said about the American teenagers having so many problems. It's because even in school, that girl in school that jumps over a garage, why she does it? Because she's not pretty enough, she's not smart enough, she's not social enough, right? She doesn't have enough followers on Instagram, she doesn't have enough likes, and she judges herself based on that. It's the same thing with judging yourself by the gold medal.
Right, you're not judging yourself by your character,
by your
and
character as a
making
human.
you valuable.
But there's a twist to the phrase. Instead of being defined by gold, what we should do is help them be defined as gold.
Yes.
The immense value of every person.
We like to use the phrase, you're worth more than gold.
Yes.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
We did not entitle this.
You're right. There's an epidemic in America and maybe around the world where people have lost sense of the value they have as just being a unique person.
Yes. Yeah. People no longer take pride in that.
Everybody is unique. Everybody is valuable. I understand.
And you can't limit yourself by your current state. You always have to be able to see that you're capable of more. And that is a large part of why we wanted to have this discussion about changing this culture, because it is eye-opening and inspiring for children to see that they're capable of more no matter where they start from, as long as you make them feel that they are. And they do not need to feel bad about their current state. They don't need to be feeling bad if they struggle, because those are all normal and human things that everyone experiences, and you're there to help them cope through it. And you're there to teach them to define themselves by the type of person that they are and the characteristics that they have and what they hold dear to themselves, not, what place that they come in. That's a bonus. That's a reward.
And again, the coach and the parent have to work together to help the athlete understand their emotion and understand their value, no matter what the circumstances. Winning or losing, winning or coming in 5th place, you are valuable. You have good things in you. You're not just bad. Understand?
Right.
Then you have to show them what they did wrong, but show them what they do good. Understand?
Right.
And try to keep it positive and be honest about it. And again, yes, you don't want to win at all costs. You don't want to be driven just by that gold medal, especially as a coach. And the coaches, I'm going to be honest, the biggest problem are the coaches. Then the parents are secondary. Understand?
Yeah.
Because everything starts with the coach. The coach has to be the one that's honest. Because the coach also gives the tempo of the parent. I'm going to give you 2 examples. I had a girl in my gym. Very talented, very good, very young. And she comes from a family with a pedigree in the Olympics. I'm going to leave it just at that. The mother wants the little girl, to do private trainings in the morning and go fast track.
Yes.
She was competing level 3, and the mother wants the girl to go level 4, level 5, then level 7, and go up to hopes very fast, at a very young age. She was, I think, 7 at the time.
Yes. And just to understand, that trajectory is very rare and limited to a few children that are really able to handle it in every sense.
Prodigies,
Yes.
The way.
And we got to a point when I was like, it's not working. I tried to explain to the mother, she doesn't need this pace. She has to go at a lower pace. I have many meetings. At one point, I was sitting in my office with Ashley and the mother and the little girl, and I said, okay, we have to do it different, And I proposed to the mother. I said, look, I asked the little one, do you like gymnastics? She's like, yes, I do like gymnastics. Obviously, she loves the sport. I said, but you don't like it this way, right? You don't like the intensity of going fast. She's like, yes. I'm like, you want to do it for fun? Yes. I said, okay. I told the mother, let's put her in Excel Silver. She has more fun. She has her home floor routine with her own music. She has her own beam routine. Then whenever she was afraid a little bit, I think on bars, to jump from the low bar to the high bar, we can skip that for now. We can still train her the same way, understand, to teach her gymnastics correctly and push her towards elite levels, but give her 1 more year because she's young. Give her 1 more year to just cool off, win some medals, get hungry, right? Because now she goes to competition and get a 9.9 on floor. She's going to be like, wow, I'm good, right? You boost her personality, right? And her confidence.
Right.
And the mother told me, no, my daughter is not an Excel girl. She's not competing that. She has to go to the Olympics. So okay. Then I told them, you're going to have to find another gym. And they find another gym. I didn't want to have that in my gym because I told Ashley, if I put this girl, I know she can do it. But I also know she's going to break because she cannot do it this way. She needs time to cool off. She needs time to grow a little bit and build her desire to work harder.
She needs to do it happily.
Yes, and have more pressure in training as, you come to a training to become an elite gymnast, the expectation is higher.
Right.
Understand?
Yeah.
I'm expecting you to come in the gym and do your tricks, and the tricks are this. They have to be.
Well, like you said, these are young, girls.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a lot of pressure.
Yes.
The point is this. I don't know what she does now, but she's not.
She didn't follow that trajectory anyway.
She didn't follow that trajectory anyway, the fast one. I'm 100% sure the girl does very good because she was talented. She was naturally gifted.
True.
But she's going the regular steps. Understand? She's not going very fast. She's not going very slow, but she's not going at the speed that her mother wants her to go at the time. Then I have another.
So the mother was the one who was defined by gold in that instance.
Understand? Yes. But you see, for me, if I was a coach coaching with ego, I would fall for that.
Right.
Because I knew the child is talented. I knew I can make that girl a very good elite gymnast and a very young elite gymnast very fast. Understand? Because the parent let's put it this way, like didn't really care how much you push her. Like she will come in the gym and the nanny will bring her in the gym for privates in the morning. And I will call the mom. I'll be like, okay, she's just stretching. She's crying. I send her home. And the mom will be like, no, she can't stay. She can go through it and she's going to learn. I was like, I don't want to be part of that. I said, I don't want her to learn that way. We can teach her different, not that way. That's not my style, you know. But if I had a point where I was defining myself just by goal, I will keep that child in the gym and push her the way the mother wants her to be pushed. But I didn't. Understand? Then I have another girl, that same thing. We put her, she came in the gym. She's very talented. She's very gifted. But she doesn't have the behavior. We tried to put her in a faster track program. Didn't work. Like 2-3 weeks into the program, we gave her time to adjust a little bit. She was not adjusting mentally, psychologically. Yes. And then I told them, I talked to the parents, I talked to the family, and I told them, let's bring her to regular practice and with the team, and we still keep her training a little bit higher pace, but give her room to feel comfortable because she doesn't like it this way. Then we tried one time, we tried 2 times, didn't work. Then we put her back in the team, but the family worked with us. Now the girl is picking up and is picking up on her own. Like she comes in the gym, she wants to be in the gym more often. She wants to do bigger tricks, understand? She's more hungry to have more complex routines. She likes to do more conditioning, like she does her conditioning a little bit better because she wants to be stronger. She's building her own, but the parents trust us.
And she had that room to breathe. And that made the biggest difference was that communication, the honest communication and listening to both sides to discover what's the best path for the child. So we were defined by the athlete, not by the goal. And
so that's a good example of the triangle working right.
Yes, that's a great example of it working.
The girl actually does very good now, and I'm very happy for her because I can see her growing, you know. And also you can have the coaches. Like, look, I have a girl. She used to come in my gym just for private sometimes, and she decided to move to my gym. She was level 9. How old was she at that time? 16?
17.
17? Yes. And she was at the gym in the area here somewhere. I'm not going to say names, and she came in my gym. The mother brought her and she told me, like, the mother's like, oh, she wants to do level 10 and she just compete level 9. That I knew the girl from the past a little bit, and I knew she's talented. The kid was gifted, like gifted. She could do elite gymnastics easy with the right training. And then when we start training, the first practice, I figured out that her ankle was bothering her. She couldn't touch it. Like, my ankle hurts. I'm like, why? And then the girl tells me, like, oh, a year ago, I had a injury. What she had?
I don't know the exact injury, but she had like torn ligaments in her ankle. She had a very bad ankle injury. And
you can say you're going to explain the story better.
You know, it was hurting her a lot a year later. And she never took time to heal this injury. So basically, like she was almost bone on bone impact.
She barely had the requirements for level 9. Understand? In the gym, beside she was injured, she didn't have the requirement to compete level 9 correctly.
Right. So what happened was she, was training to compete level 9. She got hurt. She didn't have all her skills yet. And then in our state, it's like if you bring a team at level 9, you automatically going to get a state banner because it's rare for kids to get to that level. So it's automatic that, you win something as a team. So we came to find out that the coach didn't let her heal and just put her back in competition, injured and unprepared skill-wise, so that they could get a banner
like
at
she
state
didn't get. You have to understand, it's not like they didn't let her heal. She was like injured for I think a month and a half or 2. She didn't get the medical green light to compete.
Right.
So, they just put her to compete because they need to win a banner to look good at the gym.
So a year later, we ended up sending her to a doctor.
I actually, you see, again, the parent, right? I had to argue with her mother to convince her because her mother wants her to compete, right? That's why even she let her compete with an injury.
Yeah.
Because the mother also was like looking
for her
at
to do
hungry
it. Yeah.
for her to do it, go to a college and do this,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And a year and a little bit after,
Yeah.
right? I said, okay, I'm not going to coach her. You have to take her to the doctor.
I need medical clearance. Yeah.
And we took her to the doctor. She got 6 months, no
Activity
activity
on the ankle.
on that foot. Like she couldn't even put her foot down for 6 months. And that was a year after.
Yeah.
Then she ended up quitting, obviously, because there was no point for her. She was like finishing high school and she ended up quitting. But when she quit, I was happy. I told her, like, honey, you took a right decision. I'm sad for your career because I know you could do much better than you did in gymnastics if you had the right coach. But at this moment,
You can't force your body.
you can't,
Yeah.
because there's no.
So in effect, that coach and a pushy parent ended that girl's career where she could have gone on to college and whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. If they did not, if they were not selfish in her pursuit, she would have gone much farther.
You know, and that's sad. It's sad to watch.
It's very sad
Right.
to watch, and that's why we did want to have this episode and bring up these discussions, because although people are aware of it, it's not widely discussed as to the details of why this is happening and how to prevent it. And I think only by being honest and identifying our mistakes as coaches, seeing what could go wrong between that triad of, coach, parent, and athlete, and then going back and reevaluating how we can make it better. That's the only way that we're going to change it. And as coaches, we are the ones that have the power to change the experience of our athletes. And that's why we started this whole Illuminating Champions message, because we realize that we are blessed to have this gift to work with children, and we do have this power, and that's what we want to share with our community and beyond, is that we really can make children have an illuminated life if we are there unselfishly and, working together through communication to uplift them, and you change their whole world in better. So,
And, and teach them, like I said it before, teach them to want to be the best, but teach them to lose, and lose with pride. Don't lose being embarrassed. Lose knowing that, you know what? I didn't come in the first place, but I worked so hard. I did this and I did this and I did this. I'm special because of that, because not everybody else can put up with that type of work. Not everybody else has the courage to go up on the beam or the high bar in boys gymnastics.
Right.
And it's the same thing in every other sport. Look, actually, I think we're going to end up here.
Yes.
All right. I'm going to end up here with a story. Not many people knows. I fought MMA, and I fought one time. I was like 40. I said, okay, I need to fight MMA. I need to see how is it. I need to fight, right? And I lost the fight. I did a mistake, and the guy got me in the guillotine, and I lost, right? And then I go to watch another fight, and it's Glover Teixeira is the UFC light heavyweight champion. And we knew each other. We trained a little bit together. We knew each other. And I walk into Glover, and he walks to me and shake my hand. It's like, man, congratulations, man. You did it. And now I'm looking, I'm like, wait a second, congratulations for what? I'm thinking in my head, like, I didn't win. He's like, man, just to step foot in that cage, man. And that takes a lot of courage. It's like, now you are an MMA fighter. I was like,
that's great.
Coming from but till then I didn't think about that way, because I didn't think the fact that I trained 1 month, with the training I did for like just a month, how hard it was. I didn't think about all those things.
You don't
I value myself just based on I won or I lost, But that discussion, when Glover told me that, I was like, wait a second, it's more in me than winning or losing, because to come from a champion, understand? I was like, wait a second, this guy sees more in me than I actually saw it in me.
Right. Well, and I think I'm gonna tie it off here. You experienced this as an adult. You just said you were 40 years old and you were still thinking like that. Yeah. So that's why it is so important and vital to have these conversations with very young children. Because if you didn't realize that at 40, they're not going to realize that at 5. So I think that's the way we're going to end off today's episode. And I want to say a big thank you to you, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
For always illuminating us as coaches and as people. And thank you for your help in bringing the best out of this episode.
Well, I want to say one thing, because me getting to know you, yeah, I know you're great athletes. You're great coaches. I love the way you coach, but I also think you're great people, and that's what makes my heart glad that you're teaching these young children, not to be defined by gold, but they're more valuable than gold. That just makes me feel fantastic. So again, I applaud what you do and how you do it, and I hope your parents begin to understand the depth of what you do, and I hope the children may not appreciate it now, but I think they'll remember you through life as people who help guide them the right way.
Look,
Thank you.
we're going to wrap it here, but coaches have to understand that, the young athlete is going to remember, because I remember, and I'm 47 years old, and I remember things that happened when I was very young, and some things influenced me positively, and some things influenced me negatively.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And then I had to realize at one point as an adult and make a balance and make a difference, understand? To build myself as a person.
Yes.
Because you can guide someone to the wrong direction by not being honest to them and not being correct to them,
Well, you're preparing young people for life, and I hate to say it, life is more, I've been in business a long time. Life is more like a cage fight.
It is.
An MMA fight than a walk in the park.
I told you before, life is a competition. It's a real competition. It is. It's you go against, and it's not like, for example, when you go in a cage fight, you go against another person. When you go in life, you go against many. Like if you want to work in a company, let's say Apple, they have, I don't know how many employees. You want to get a job as a CEO, or maybe another 1,000 CEO in the world that apply for a CEO position at Apple, that are as smart, as good, as hungry as you are, and you want to get that position. You don't go against one person, understand? And you don't study that one person. Let's put it that way. Like in MMA, you have time to you study the person, your opponent for 3 months before or a month before. The same thing in gymnastics, your opponent. Like it's different, but in real life, sometimes you don't know your opponent. Your opponent is very invisible, and that's the hardest things to fight. It's an invisible opponent.
Well, you're doing a great job preparing young people for a life in gymnastics, but also, to be a champion in life. So I think you do a great job.
The most important is to be champion in life.
Right. That's why as coaches, we have to really remember exactly what you just said. And what we pointed out, I think, in our very first episode is that whether you're cognizant of it or not, you're making an impact on somebody else that's young, that's watching you. So you have to be mindful of the choices that you make and where you lead them. So thank you so much, Mark, for helping us bring up all these important discussions.
Thank you, everybody, for watching us.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for listening to Illuminating Champions. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and stay tuned for our next episode.